Israel has, it's taken it upon itself to try and eliminate Hamas. So it needs to get full ground control and then take Hamas on in the tunnels. Whether that's feasible and how that can be done with a view to, preserving life of the 2 million civilians.
The UN Security Council is meeting in New York ahead of a vote on a resolution calling for an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. It follows the release of footage which shows more than 100 Palestinian men stripped to their underwear before being lined up and then taken away by an Israel Defense Forces truck. Well, let's speak now to Conservative peer Arminka Helic. Also on the line, The Times' special correspondent Richard Spencer, who's in Tel Aviv. Richard, I'll come to you first, if I may, and then to you, Arminka. Richard, could you just bring us the latest on both the crisis in Gaza, the devastation we're seeing there, and the kind of diplomatic moves afoot to try and achieve some kind of breakthrough, however remote that seems?
Yeah, so two very distinct questions there. One has an answer, one doesn't. The question to which is there an answer is, how is the war going on the ground? That is pretty much as Israel has dictated, which it has inflicted huge damage, obviously, on both Hamas and on Gaza and on the infrastructure of Gaza. Its troops are now wiping out the last pockets of resistance, I guess you could say, in the north of Gaza. That's where you saw those striking images of the captives stripped to their underwear. We're told that they are basically all the men in the town of Beit Lahir that were sheltering in that town have been rounded up. They're being taken away to see if they are Hamas or not. Basically, there are civilians among them. We know that because some have been identified. The army are also have taken, we think, quite a lot of Khan Yunis, the biggest city in the south, and are moving through the south. They've been given a month, basically, to end this war by the Biden administration, which is putting pressure on the Israeli government, Benjamin Netanyahu, to finish this as soon as possible. So the ground forces are moving quite fast, but that, of course, has a huge effect on the civilian population, who are moving, that rather dramatic phrase, like a ball in a pinball machine, that the UN Secretary General said. They're now squeezed into UN safe areas in schools and hospitals, and into two giant tiny safe zones, but full of huge numbers of people in Rafah, the town on the Egyptian border, and in a place called, on a sort of beach, a swampy area by the coast, at a place called Al Mwasi, to the west of Khan Yunis. And you have 1.9 million displaced people, 1.2 million in these UN shelters, hundreds of thousands more just camping out in the streets in places like Rafah. Disease is spreading. There's very little food. There's very little water. So that's the grim news. As for what can be done about it, Israel has, it's taken it upon itself to try and eliminate Hamas. So it needs to get full ground control and then take Hamas on in the tunnels. Whether that's feasible and how that can be done with a view to, preserving life of the 2 million civilians, that's an unknowable question.
Richard Spencer, thank you very much for joining us with that briefing from Tel Aviv.